Hello, I am Panos Kotzathanasis, and this is ASEAN Movie Pulse Interviews. Today I'm here with Sngmoo Lee, director of Red Eyes, a virtual reality film that just screened in Thessaloniki. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much for reaching out and interviewing me.
Okay, thank you for being here. So to start with the questions, okay, I guess the first that comes to mind is why virtual reality?
Why virtual reality? Yeah, that's great questions. I've been a filmmaker, traditional filmmaker for almost 30 years now, and I'm still doing both virtual and the traditional filmmaking, storytelling. But about like 6 years ago, when I was a filmmaker, I was kind of filmmaker, was not satisfied with the limit of the technology. So when I shot my film with Jeffrey Rush and Jang Dong-gun about like 10 years ago, I shot the film in entire green screen. It's a traditional film, but all the other environments are all or CGI, virtual in a way. And the actors and some small props and the sets were in the reality, like in the way of 300. Because I was always felt that the limit, of course, there are great thing about the reality in cinema, but also there is something beyond that. So I wanted to experiment. For instance, I wanted my film to be magic hour, which is 30 minutes before and 30 minutes later after the sunset and sunrise. And you really cannot shoot the film that way because it only lasts 30 minutes in a day. But by embracing that kind of virtual reality and CGI into the filmmaking, I could control the sky to the heart of my act heroes. So the whole sky just become one of my characters in a way. And so that kind of flexibility and the possibility, I was always drawn to it. And when I first tried virtual reality about 7 years ago, I felt that all the filmmakers' dream is creating the world and invite your audience in it. And that's been all the storytellers' dream for more than like 2,000, 3,000 years. And virtual reality can actually make that happen. So I kind of see it as a future of the visual storytelling and future of the storytelling in general, where storytellers' dream come true. So I started to embrace the virtuality along with my traditional side of the filmmaking. And Red Eyes is one of that effort. And I've been making about 5 or 6 projects in the virtual reality. And that's how I see, and that's the reason why I chose this film to be shot in the virtual reality.
And regarding the shooting, can you tell us a bit about what are the differences shooting in virtual reality?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, virtual reality, if you are new to it, there are 2 types of the virtual reality. One is using the traditional camera, and the other one is using the game engine or CGI, so that it's all the world is created through the machine, but 360 cinema is still you have to use the camera. And some people don't even call the 360 cinema as a virtual reality because it lacks something, which is interactivity. Still is a passive experience. All the world around you is virtual, but it's not like real world. You can walk around and touch things. So there are some limit to it, but still that's the only way you can introduce human actors, human people. Well, without the camera, we cannot do it. The virtual human with the game engine is not there yet. So first of all, you need to have like you have to know that there are 2 different approaches. And 360 cinema is, in a way, nightmare because traditional filmmaking is cut the time and space continuum. So you can frame it and slice it, and you splice it together back in through the editing. So you have many tools to manipulate the time and the space. Versus virtual reality, the camera itself is like a football ball, and it shot everything around you. So there is no place to hide the light. There is no place to hide the microphone. and there is no place for the director. I'm always always behind the camera so that I can look at the performances. But this camera shoot everything, so you have to hide yourself from the set. So it becomes sort of like theater, getting closer to the theater in a way. And now this film Red Eyes, I introduced some of the traditional techniques like moving and editing in a way. But about 4 or 5 years ago, when I shot my first 360 cinema, the rule of thumb is do not move your camera, do not cut. So at that time, it was not just that you have to be hide from somewhere and no lighting. Also, the biggest tool of the filmmaker, the editing and the camera movement, mise-en-scène, is not there. So that's big difference. So that's actually totally different approach of the filmmaking. I have to forget about all the expertise I have known for 25 years as a film director, and I have to find myself in a new way to adjust to this new medium.
And since you mentioned it, how does the editing work? I mean, after the shooting, how do you edit?
There are very few edits. Scene by scene edit is still allowed, but you really have to think about the audience, where audience was looking at before the editing. So just very simple cutting, like two shot, and close up of one person, that becomes a problem, because if you were looking at the left side human being, and then I cut to the close-up of the right side of human being, suddenly somebody just pop up from out of nowhere. So it's like somebody just turning your face like this, and it's really disorienting. So that the traditional editing doesn't work, and you have to find a way to direct the audience's attention in a way. Of course, not everybody will follow your guidance, but you sort of have to imagine where the audience member would be looking before the cut, so that when the next cut is introduced, it's not jarring and it's not disorienting. It cannot work 100% times, and it cannot work for all the audiences, but it really needs some time and trial and error to find what works, what kind of editing works in the virtual reality or not. It's not that simple.
And
same is true to the movement. So the pacing and the length of the movement, if you move too fast, they will throw up. And so you really have to do some adjustment and trial and error to find the right timing to it.
And what about the equipment? What is this? How is the equipment you use?
Yeah, we use the camera called Insta Pro, which is one of the most advanced all-in-one camera. There are two types of the camera, which is like all-in-one, looking like a football. And you can make the camera and make your own rig, so that, like multiple camera is shooting that direction. But that you need to splice it. The painstaking problem of the cinema is splicing. It's basically one camera look at this, second camera look at this, and it becomes like a big ball. So there are certain part overlaps like this. So you have to literally splice two pictures together. If it's just a white wall, it's not a problem. But let's say one camera cover my face from here to here. Second camera cover my face from here to here, is unable to splice, because you literally have to draw the wrapping part, and sometimes my two eyes are overlapping, sometimes my two eyes are too apart. So that kind of thing is one of the really painstaking process of the 360 cinema, which we never have to worry about in the traditional filmmaking.
And how do the actors react to this time of filmmaking?
First time they got very disoriented, because same is true. Their expertise as a film actor, they know the close-up, and sometimes they can express very detailed feeling through their eyes, or just a simple movement of their fingers or hand, and they know that director will use that kind of elements to make the emotion carrying through. But here they becomes a theater actor at least 3 meters away from the audience. So when I shot my first 360 cinema, I told them that think of you as the very early stage of the cinema, 1985 or 1900, where all the actor has to raise their hand when something's said. They have to really express that, oh, I'm sad, I'm happy, because we didn't have close-up at that time. Of course, we will not do that in the modern cinema, but you really have to exaggerate so that people can register your inner emotion from the distance. So that kind of thing was very challenging, and also kind of being a disadvantage of this the movie actors, film actors. But they adjust to it and they begin to like it because they don't have to think about the editing. It's just the performance. For the like 1 minute duration shot is their call. Director is not there. They just suddenly become actor and director in charge, and they really have to know to pull this off properly. And their emotional exchanges, nobody's there to guide them. So they really have to find the chemistry in between them. So that's kind of advantage of this kind of filmmaking. And all the actors I have worked with first kind of got very scared, but they began to embrace it because it becomes more of the actor's call rather than director's call.
Okay.
So I asked them always at the end of the shot, I asked them, okay or not. I'm not the one to say okay or not. I have to ask them. And they said, the chemistry was not there. And then, okay, we do another shot. That kind of thing they like.
So how long does it take to make this whole thing? Let us say shooting and post-producing. How long does it take?
Wow, that takes about a year, I think, from the conception to the finished project. Actually, it took more than a year, but there are some. It doesn't mean that I had to work all the time. Especially the CGI part took a lot of time because CGI in 360 is much more difficult than traditional film because they have to cover so many areas, and this is also 360 and 3D. So there are many unexpected things. They are not. I mean, traditional CGI house was not very used to it, so they also had to do many experiments to make it work. Very simple thing like putting the red eyes or to the zombies, and it's just painting work. But in 3D, the painting work is just actually like three inches apart from their eye, and they really don't know how to fix it. Actually, even in the finished film of the red eyes, if you look at it carefully, there are some dots doesn't belong there, and we really try hard, but we couldn't make that work 100%. So that kind of thing takes a lot of time. And again, like I said, it needs a more trial and error and test shot before you do it. But actual shooting doesn't take that long because, like I said, we don't cover that much. We just have to shoot like almost like a blank seconds, long takes. So we don't have to divide the scene into a small shots that much. So that part needs a lot of rehearsal, but when the rehearsal is done, that we only have like a couple of chances to cover it or not. And if we didn't get it, then that's end of the story. So that's difficult, but again, the time-wise, shooting didn't take that long, especially for the action film like this. We have to cut everything like muzzles, the fires and close-up and bullets. We have to cover it. But here it's just a one-take long shot. That's all.
And the zombies in the film are actual people or CGI? I'm not.
Most of there is no CGI zombies. We enhance them, erase them, and put the red into their eyes, and put some more blood here and there. But they were all the actors. Of course, we used some composition so that the actual number was more than what we shot, but they are all human beings.
Okay. And I don't know if you can answer that, but maybe could you tell us how much does a 17-minute film like that cost in virtual reality?
That one for today's rate, it took about, I would say 40 or 400K, like almost like $500,000 US.
Mhm.
A little bit lower than that. At that time, it was about like, yeah, like 400,000.
Okay, okay. And do you think that the virtual reality cinema is the future or just an alternative, let's say? What do you think?
I believe that it is the future, but it's gonna take time. It's in its infancy. And when I compare it to the traditional film, it took about 25 years or 30 years when they first invented the camera, and then Griffiths come like 1925, and those 30 years was the period of the experimenting.
Mhm.
And then we began to understand the visual storytelling through camera. So it's not going to take 30 years, but we are at very infancy, especially 360 cinema, like I said, with so much thing to overcome. And it's not going to replace the cinema, but it will become another medium, because like you are in the light film, you are in the IMAX, and you are in the, like you are in the very huge buildings, size screen, and that requires different storytelling. And 360 cinema gives you something traditional cinema never can give you. So, and the resolution and all this kind of splicing thing is getting better and better. For instance, when I first shot my 360 cinema, the splicing, I had to use the splicing. So there's so much overlaps, and took a lot of time and painstaking effort, which audience wouldn't even know. But we had to do everything in the background. But when I shot this one, I didn't, splicing was a secondary problem, because it kind of do it with their own algorithm, and we didn't touch the splicing that much. So that kind of advanced, and also the resolution, when you look at this 360, even though it says 8K, it's 8K in total. So what you're actually looking at is just a fraction of it. So it is really the resolution of the early YouTube, and it looks ugly.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so that kind of thing begins to advance when you look at something, and Al Pacino is right in front of your face, looking your eye into, and then it's gonna be totally different storytelling and totally different experience. So yes and no. It's gonna make the cinema changes, but it's not gonna replace it, and it's gonna take some time to replace or substitute cinema in a huge way, but it is the future, in my opinion.
And so you are planning to continue on this path?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for long, and my main achievement in the VR is more in the engine side of the storytelling, game engine side. And I recently I was developing XR immersive theater, where the audience member get to play with the actor in the virtual world one by one, exchanging something, and that's something film cinema can never give, because that's two-way communication, interactivity, and that's very unique, and there is no substitute for it. And these modern audiences, they are more the game players also. Most of the cinema goers are game players now. So when they begin to embrace this interactivity, this passive experience of the cinema is less interesting.
Mhm.
And like, I'm almost 60 years old, and I'm a big fan of the traditional cinema, and I'm so used to it. But sometimes when I play games and doing this VR, and when I have to walk into the cinema and constrain myself for 2 hours like this, I kind of feel a little bit less interested in the content. I want to do something. So when especially these younger generations getting used to this more and more, they will be more want to interact. In that sense, interactivity in the extra storytelling is more important. So I'm more pursuing that direction. But again, as a traditional filmmaker, you want to see the human face, not just the animated characters. So in that sense, 360 cinema will still need to be produced, and I am intending to do that. But my main goal now is at the heart of the interactivity of the extra storytelling.
And tell
But
me a bit.
I'll say, yes, I would say like 60% of my work is still traditional TV script writing, and I'm preparing for my next feature film. So there is a balance to it.
And why did you choose to shoot a film with zombies and the army, let's say?
That was after I did a lot of like extra storytelling. I was quite successful in a way in the film festival circuits. But I'm from traditional cinema, and I like the action film. My feature film was about the uh, Asian assassins, ninjas in the West world. So I like that kind of pushing the envelope action film with the heart. That's what I like the most as a film director. I write many different genres as a writer, but as a director, for me, that kind of action I like the action film pushing the envelope. So that's one thing for me. But most importantly, after all this festival circuit, about 3 or 4 years, whether it was acclaimed or not, there are no audiences for it. I kind of miss the audience, and I want to bring this XR to the broader audiences. And the telecom in the Korean telecom company, they were into this 5G XR content, and there are so less content. So one of the telecom company asked me if I can make something more accessible to the general audience, VR film to that. So I said one thing always work in VR is the horror, because it's very contained, and when something just disappears and appears at the right corner of your space, it's really scary. It's not like looking at the frame, because that in that frame, you know that no matter how scary it is, you know that it's not gonna come out of you and touch you. But in the VR, when you see something approaching to you, you're like, get away from me.
Yeah.
So that zombie and all the grammars and the experiences I had for like 4 or 5 years, I wanted to put that into this film. So zombie or some sort of horror film, even though I hate horror films and I don't like zombie film that much, but I wanted to embrace that element to make it work for the general audiences.
But you also included the concept of love, even if in the end, and why?
Oh yeah, it's about the storytelling, and zombie film for the zombie's sake is not it's not my kind of film. I respect that, but I still want to have some meaning, and also the love only can happen in the virtual reality, where somebody's looking into your eyes is one of the most effective moment in the VR cinema, 360 cinema. And that kind of out of the body experiences where you are there and you don't know why you are there, that's when my actress is kind of floating to see her soul floating into her lover. And that kind of thing is kind of very effective in the cinema 360 cinema grammar. So I wanted to embrace that. I want the last minute of the eye contact to be very touching and meaningful, not just shocking. So that was there from the day one in my script.
But why did you choose for the protagonist to die at the end? Why not a
Yeah,
happy ending?
a happy ending. It could be a happy ending, but again, uh, this is like I don't like happy ending that much from the beginning. And then secondly, uh, what's most touching feeling? I never thought about it, but since you're asking, if the final contact of somebody become most effective, would that be a combination of a very strong final gaze or the look you're gonna see for the rest of your life? What would be more touching and more impactful? So I think that kind of thing was was there. I never thought about it, but I want that final moment to be very, very strong, and that final gaze exchanges better be the last one. It's kind of confession of a person to the other person, which becomes yourself, and then blast. So I kind of assume that will be the most touching and impactful eye contact. And to carry that emotion, I think it better be somebody's final gaze.
Okay, great. And can you tell me a bit about your opinion for the Korean movie industry right now, since you are working in many capacities? What is your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, Korean culture in general is in its heydays. And when I was in a junior high school, Korean movie and Korean music is something you avoid. Only the man with the less taste, they go to see Korean movie. And and then Korean music was like, when I was in junior high school, every good music listener only listened to pop songs. And then they kind of Korean song was for the older generation. And it's amazing that after like 40 years or so, it becomes so much, gained so much popularity and so much impact in the global entertainment market. So it's really exploding in a way. If you're talking about the cinema, it's not just a problem of the Korea cinema. Cinema, I've been a filmmaker for like 40 years, and I studied film as cinema studies, and I'm a film professor in my school. I've been a film professor, National Film School, for more than almost 30 years. So film is at my heart, and it's the origin of everything. But unfortunately, I think the cinema as we know, or as we appreciate it, is dying. It will be there, but it's not going to have that dominant status as the premium medium anymore. And so I agree with many other people that cinema going experience will not be as we used to enjoy. Either it becomes very small and become art house circuit, or it will become very big and become IMAX Marvel films. And there will not many variety in between. So in that sense, Korean film lacks the diversity. Of course, Bong Joon-ho and Park Chan-wook, you people know, but there are very two exceptions. And as a film teacher, it's almost impossible to raise next generation of Park Chan-wook or Bong Joon-ho. Bong Joon-ho got their time and their benefit from certain period where or directors had some privileges and freedom to explore his or her vision. Modern days, they don't really allow them unless the budget is very, very tiny. So they cannot make a 5 million experimental film anymore, like Bong Joon-ho and Park Chan-wook did. So it's not that we don't have talents anymore. We have plenty of talents, good younger generation, but they don't have a chance to become Park Chan-wook or Bong Joon-ho. Of course, some will come out, but there are not going to be many. So including myself, many people take a refuge in the TV series where there are more diversity of the storytelling and more room for the writer's vision. And Korean film becomes a little bit of Hollywood film where you kind of expect the depths and the range of the subject matter becoming very limited more and more. It's sad, but I think it's happening in everywhere else in the world.
And have you screened the film Red Eyes in Korea? Have people seen it there?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it was funded by the telecom company, so it's in their app, and they can watch through the phone. The big problem, what's the most sad part for me is that, of course, you can put your phone into the Google and watch it this way, but people never do that. So people who watch the Red Eyes, most of them look at it like this. And so much effort for me, so much effort was poured into that, so that how to direct their eyes, like you are in the same room with the zombies and somebody's trying to save you at the front and somebody's attacking you from the back and you have to just look around. That kind of thing can never happen in the traditional cinema. And there's how I designed the shot. And by doing this, it's just a moving mobile phone. So all the thing I wanted to create is just gone. So yeah, many people seen it through the telecom app, but not the way I want it. So my ambition in a way to introduce to the broader audience worked in a way because at least more than, I would say, 10,000, 2,000 people would have seen it, but probably maybe a few hundred seen it in a way, even less than few hundred seen it in a way that I designed. So that's the problem, not just for me, or the XR storytellers problem, accessibility. And we just appreciate each other's, we learn from each other's, and it's progressing slowly, but we don't really have a criticism or applause what the entertainment creators deserve. So that's a huge problem.
And I guess this is the last question. How do you imagine virtual cinema inside a theater, let's say, a collective experience where people are watching this movie together? How you imagine that? Can it happen, you think? Or
that can happen. Technically speaking, if you are in a perfect dome and with the crisp projection, you can do it, but you cannot do it 3D. So the 3D is zombies light in front of you, something's flying to you and you kind of duck. That kind of thing is a 360 cinema, and this is the 3D cinema, like James Cameron is doing. But you're not gonna have that kind of experience ever. So that's not gonna be the future of the 360 cinema. And so we still have to rely on individual headset in a way. That's a big problem. It's not just the device problem, is more related to the human beings, and do they want to detach themselves from the reality and emerge into this headset or not? That's different matter. But as it becomes lighter and more accessible, more people, especially younger generation, is beginning to embrace it, but not to the degree of what we have expected 7 years ago. But we will be there sooner or later.
sounds like a threat.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay.
In a way. Okay.
I guess thank you very much for your time. This was really great, really informative. I have to say, I really enjoyed the film when I saw it with the virtual reality glasses. It was really a great experience. I will suggest everyone to go watch your film. Really, I'm not joking about that. And like, thank you for doing all this hard job to create something new.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure, and I wish that more and more people get to experience that in a proper way. And I really want to get the criticism of it, so that this doesn't work and doesn't feel good or something. That kind of thing is very important, and that's something all the XR storytelling tellers are wishing to hear. So thank you very much for inviting me, and I thank you very much that you enjoyed my film, and I hope that one of your audience members get to experience it at Thessaloniki. I have to tell you that the VR venue and the Thessaloniki Film Festival is one of the great setup in the virtual reality venue. And so I really wish that one of your audience members get to go there and check it. You don't have to experience my film. There are many other great titles, and Lazarus, the programmer, did great effort to put all those things in there. So do not miss that opportunity, because it's very rare to see this kind of film at home. No distribution system. So you just do it when you have a chance.
Okay, thank you very much. This was ASEAN Movie Pulse interviews from Panos Kotzathanasis and Sngmoo Lee. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.